Do you struggle with throwing away your sourdough discard? Me too. I can't stand the thought of just tossing out something that I worked so hard to build, but I also now have this gigantic container, and so I either have to keep feeding it more and more, or I have to start throwing some of it away. So we're going to talk about some ways that we can use up this discard. Welcome back to Harvest Moon Farm. My name is Mickey. So today we're going to use our sourdough discard to make some other items. I have a few recipes here. I don't know how many we're going to get to. We're going to make some more of our everyday crackers. They're just a sourdough cracker. They're amazing. I made some. We made some together. It's been several months. I also am looking at some sourdough chocolate graham crackers that sound delicious. I love graham crackers. And then if we have time, we also are going to make a sourdough blueberry crumb cake. And then Joe and I can have that for breakfast or dessert or a snack or whatever we want. So we're going to start with our regular, just everything sourdough crackers. And I will list whatever recipes I end up using today. I will put those in the description box. All right, so we're going to start with our crackers, just our regular crackers. And for those, we need a cup of starter. And we want to use unfed, just starter that you've got either in your refrigerator or on your counter. This was fed yesterday, late morning sometime. So that is perfect. And I actually just remembered I was going to double this recipe. So we're going to use 2 cups of sourdough starter. And the kitty's being very needy today. I don't know what her deal is, but she's following me around, stepping on my feet, meowing at me. She's got food, so she's got water. So I don't know what her deal is today, but she's really needy. Okay, there we go. There's our starter. And then we're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose. We're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You could use whole wheat flour if you like. I'm just going to use all-purpose. 1 and 2. Now next you could either use melted butter or olive oil. And I think I used olive oil this last time I made this, so that's what I'm going to use this time. Let's see. And so we need 1/2 cup of olive oil. And then we want 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I'm going to use my dough whisk to go ahead and mix this together. It's just easier than a fork or something like that. I need to get a second one of these so that I can have one in the dirty dishes and one to be used if I'm doing a bunch of different recipes. All right. So we're gonna get all this dough off of our whisk and in the bowl. Maybe. Okay. There we go. And now we're just going to kind of knead this right in the bowl until the dough is smooth. I'm going to get just a touch of flour in here. All right, now we're going to cover this with a towel and we're going to let it sit and rest for 20 minutes. Okay, so while our regular crackers, the dough is resting, we're going to go ahead and put together our chocolate graham cracker recipe. So I got this out and I don't need it because we're going to use our stand mixer. Okay, so to our stand mixer, we are going to add 4 ounces of unsalted butter. All I have is salted, that's all I ever buy. 4 ounces is half a stick, I think. Let me look. Okay, it is a single stick. So we're going to add 1 stick of butter. And this is room temperature. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of honey. All right, quarter cup. And this poured out really nicely because I used it for the olive oil. So that olive oil helped the honey not stick to the measuring cup quite so badly. Okay, now we're going to do our 1/4 cup of sugar. And now we are going to whip this until it's light and fluffy. It's going to take about 2 minutes or so. Okay, now to our butter and sugar mixture, we are going to add a 1/2 cup of cocoa, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of baking soda. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this up to combine it. Scrape the sides so that we get all the mixture back down in the middle of our bowl here. Okay, And then we're gonna add a cup of sourdough starter. And let me see here. 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1/4 cup of white wheat flour. I'm just going to add maybe all-purpose flour. Okay, and then we want to mix this just until it starts to come together. The recipe says do not overmix, so we will try not to. We will try not to overmix our dough. So now we want to divide our dough in half. Oops. And we're going to wrap each half up in a layer of plastic wrap. Alright, so I'm going to kind of squish this ball together a little bit and divide it in half. And then I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, now I'm going to take each of these and I'm just going to roll them up in this plastic. We're going to stick these in the fridge and we want to let them sit for at least an hour. So into the fridge they go. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and move back to our regular crackers. So I'm going to take about half my dough, lay it out on a sheet of parchment paper, and then we're going to roll it out thin. So I'm going to use my, I don't know what this is called, this handleless rolling pin, and we're going to use that to roll this out. And we want it to be, it doesn't say, it just says thin. So I guess you can make these however thin you want your crackers to be. I just know from the last time I made them, the thinner the better, because they'll bake up more crispy if they're thinner. The recipe calls for melted butter. I'm actually going to just use some butter flavored Pam because I don't have much butter left in my container where it's softened. So now we want to, this is where you can use whatever you want to top your crackers. So the original recipe calls for everything bagel topping. I made my own topping last time. I think this time I'm just going to sprinkle them with a little bit of salt. I don't want them too salty, but I want enough. I might actually put something else on here. Last last time I put some sesame seeds on them, so I think I'm going to do that again. Like I said, you can top these however you want to top them. Okay, so I'm going to slide this one onto this cookie tray, or this baking sheet, like that. Then I'm going to use a pizza cutter, or you can use a knife to just cut these, and it really doesn't matter. You choose the size. It doesn't matter that the edges are not going to be necessarily square. Oh, like that row is very thin. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just slide these apart just a little bit so that it's easier, so they don't bake together, basically. And if they do, it's not really that big of a deal. So if they do bake together, once they're cooled, you can kind of snap them apart. And then I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. Okay, we're going to get our second piece of dough out. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to spread this out and then roll it out as smooth or as thin as we want it. And like I said, from last time I made them, I realized that the thinner you could get them, the better, because then they're more crispy, which is what I like in a cracker, which I'm assuming most people like in a cracker, because they smell so good. This piece of dough, I think, was bigger than the other piece because it's taking up more space on my parchment paper. That is okay. I'll just maneuver this dough until it rolls out the direction that I need it to. Might not be able to do a lot of separating of the crackers on this piece, but again, that is okay. We will make it work. Okay, so there we go. Same thing, a little bit of butter spray. And you can, of course, use butter, melted butter, and just use a brush to spread it on. I just didn't want to. Like I said, I want to use some of the softened butter that I have left to try and make this blueberry crumb cake. All right, so let's get this one on the tray. Oh yeah, not going to be able to separate it at all. Okay, so we want to bake them for about 15 to 20 minutes or until they are brown and crispy, and they will get crispier as they cool. I know that sounds backwards, but they will get crispier as they cool. but you can bake them. I think we ended up baking our last batch. I think we put them in a second time and let them bake a little bit longer, and they turned out better. So what I'm going to do, because I've got 2 trays, is I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes and then switch them on the racks and then cook them another 10 minutes. All right, so we're actually making some good progress. So we are going to go ahead and get started with our blueberry crumb cake. But I have to wash up my mixer bowl first. And it wouldn't really be that big of a deal if I didn't want to wash this out, except that this had chocolate in it. So while I love chocolate, I don't want my blueberry crumb cake to taste like chocolate. I don't know if that would be a super good mix, although maybe it would. But we're not going to find out today. Today we're going to make it without the chocolate in the pan, in the bowl, I mean. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so we're going to start with our butter and sugar. We need 6 tablespoons of butter and 1/3 cup granulated sugar. There's our butter. Oops. All right. 1/3 cup of sugar. Oops, forgot something. So we're gonna make up our crumb topping. Oh, nope, okay. So we want 6 tablespoons of butter for this. I thought I mixed up my pieces of the recipe for a minute. And then to our butter, we're going to add 1/3 cup of sugar. That's the right one? Yes. 1/3 cup of 1/3 cup of sugar. Oops. One teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of cornstarch, and half a teaspoon of salt. Vanilla, cornstarch, and salt. And then we need 1 cup of flour. Let me double check that. Yes, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, which I'm gonna have to go back down. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and get some more flour. Let's see what we've got here. Not quite a cup. All right, I'll be right back. All right. Let's finish out our cup of flour. Alrighty, dump that in there. And then we're just gonna mix this up. Except there's our timer, so I'm gonna flop. I'm gonna switch the rack that the trays are on. Alright, so I got the trays switched to the other rack. So we're gonna stir this up and set it to the side, and this will be our crumb topping that we put on the top of our cake before we put it in the oven. Okay, set that to the side. Okay, now we can go back to our cake mixture. So, the 6 tablespoons of butter was correct, but I needed 2/3 of a cup of sugar and not 1 cup, or 1/3. So I'll put this other third in. And then we're going to mix this up until it's light and fluffy. So we'll let this go. All right, so now we're going to do 1 whole egg. And 1 egg yolk. Okay. And we're just going to scrape the sides and the bottom as we need to make sure that this gets mixed well. Right, give the sides a scrape the stuff off the beater. Alright, so now we are going to use 3/4 of a cup of sourdough starter. Pour that in and mix this together. Okay, and then the recipe tells us to mix all of our dry ingredients together. I did not do that. I almost never do that. I'm gonna do it today. Okay, so we're going to add 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Let's do this first. So we need a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, we want 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a tablespoon of cornstarch. So that's the same as 3 teaspoons. So 1, 2, 3. Now we want to mix this just until it's combined. One half cup of buttermilk. And it says if you don't have buttermilk, which I do not, you can do 1/4 cup of milk and 1/4 cup of sour cream. So that's what I'm going to do. So there's 1/4 cup of milk. And we'll do 1/4 cup of sour cream. There we go. And then we're going to add 2 cups of blueberries. It says fresh blueberries. Mine are frozen. It'll still be fine. So I'm going to let this run while I go down and get my blueberries out of the freezer. That looks awesome. All right, now, because my blueberries are frozen, I am going to put some, I'm going to kind of coat them in flour. All right, there's one. All right, there's two. If you coat them in flour or cornstarch, it kind of helps keep them from dropping to the bottom of your dish. All right. Okay, so now we're going to pour our blueberries into our batter, and we're just going to give them a gentle stir. Want to mix them in without breaking anything up. Now mine are frozen, so they're not going to break, but anytime you're adding fruit or chips or anything like that, it's best if you hand stir them so that you don't break anything up. All right, so now we want to line our 8x8 pan with parchment paper. So I'm gonna put this in here. And then we're going to pour our dough into our pan. Spread it around. Okay, and then we are going to sprinkle our crumb mixture on top, and we're going to dot the top with our half cup of remaining blueberries. Okay, so we want to kind of break this up as we go so that we have kind of some crumbs, you know, kind of some larger pieces, but also make sure that it gets broken up enough that it's going to cover our whole pan, which I think we have plenty here. I love crumb toppings. They're like my favorite part of any kind of dish like this. Okay, I'll go ahead and open this other package of frozen blueberries. And I'm just going to kind of sprinkle a few over here. I'm not actually going to measure out half a cup. I'm just going to sprinkle them until I think it looks good. So that's probably half a cup or so. I'll put this in a baggie and go ahead and stick it in the freezer. And then as soon as our crackers are done, we're going to put this in the oven and we're going to bake it for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes at 350, because that's how long it's going to take to get completely done. So timer's going off. So as soon as I get these blueberries in the freezer, right, hopefully don't spill them all over all over me, all over the floor, you know, my typical. Okay, so let me go check those. So our crackers are done. Whoa, they look really good. So I'm going to set them out here to cool. Watch out, puppy. Watch out, puppy. Let those cool there. And we're going to put our blueberry dish in the oven. So I set my timer for an hour, and after an hour I'll check it and judge what I think about how much of that 15 minutes, or maybe a little more, a little less, whatever, that we need to go ahead and get that finished baking. So now that's perfect. We can let our graham cracker dough chill in the fridge while those bake. And then when those are about done, or when the blueberry crumb cake is about done, I can take the graham cracker dough out and go ahead and roll it out and get it ready to go in the oven as well. So I've got my dishwasher loaded, got my counter cleaned off. So while that's baking, we're going to go ahead and feed our sourdough starter because I used quite a bit. Oops. So I'm going to feed it 100 grams-ish. So that was 125, close enough. So then I'm going to do the same with my water. Give it a good stir, put the lid back on it, and put it back on the counter by the stove where it lives, so that it will be all ready for the next time that I want to use sourdough for whatever. So this will be active and bubbly in a few hours if I wanted to do something that required a bubbly starter. I don't think I'm going to do anything else today, but that could change. So I'll be back when our bread is almost done, or our cake is almost done, I mean, and I'm ready to start working on the chocolate graham crackers, and we'll get those rolled out and ready to go. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start working on our chocolate crackers. I'm just going to use one piece at a time, and we're going to just roll these out. That might not work, actually. I'm going to start, because it's chilled and that makes my paper slide around, I'm going to, let's see, I wonder if this will work. My little non-slip mat here. Oh, that does work. Fantastic. All right, so we want to roll this out to a 1/4 inch thickness. My cookies are not going to be all squares. They'll just be whatever they are. Same as my other crackers, and that is completely fine. So just like before, I use my pizza wheel. All right. Might make these two a little small. And I'm just going to use my baking sheet. And I want to try and get both of these on one sheet if I can. And if I can't, that's fine too. I'm going to utter ball of dough. And I start getting my smashing out with my hands. And then I'll roll it like this. Oh, only part. So what I did was spread over some vegetable spray so it doesn't stick like that. And it looks like our cake might be almost done. So, yes, something's like all over here. Now you turn it, so that's frustrating. But you don't want it to get thin. Just like the other crackers, not even a cookie. You know, roll that thin. Right, for this one, look at. Okay. So I'm going to run that a few more minutes because it's still a little wiggly in the middle. Let's see what I can do here to get these on one baking sheet. I think if I move some of these around a little bit, I can make it work. There we go, yay! Okay, so now we're going to put this in the freezer for 10 minutes, which should be about the same time as we've got left on our cake. I did go out to the garden just a little bit ago and I harvested a couple of different kinds of basil, and honestly I can't tell you what kind each of them is, I just know they're different. Some zucchini, our cucumbers are finally coming on, you know, at a decent clip, so I picked about 5 or 6 cucumbers, 1 single jalapeno, and I think that was it. No more tomatoes yet. So I'll be back when it's time to take the cake out of the oven and put the graham crackers in. All right, so here, let me turn this around the other way. So here is our blueberry crumble cake, blueberry crumb cake. oh, it smells so good. I just put a knife in the center. It is completely done. So now we are just going to let this sit on our counter until it's completely cooled before we cut it. So it has been now about 10 minutes. I'm going to get our sheeted graham crackers out of the freezer and we're going to get those in the oven. So here are these. In the oven they go. Okay, so I just added another 5 minutes to our graham crackers. I think mine were probably a little thicker than they should have been because they're still not really crispy. So I added another 5 minutes and we'll go ahead and take them out after that because I don't want them to burn. So we'll take them out and let them cool, and then hopefully they will crisp up enough. And if not, they'll just be a soft cookie and that'll be fine too. All right, so here we've got our chocolate crackers, and I just realized one of the things that I didn't do that I was supposed to was take a fork and poke holes in these crackers, and so that may have made a difference. Ooh, I hope I didn't burn these. Oh no, they're fine. Okay, so we're gonna let these cool until they're completely cool, and then we're gonna give one of these a try, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's give one of these little pieces a taste test. Oh, this one's very crunchy. I might have cooked them a little too long. It's good though. They're not super sweet. They're not really sweet, so I think these would be good to make either like a dessert crust, or if you were just going to eat these with something else that was sweeter, ice cream or something like that. They are good. They're just not super sweet. So if you've got kids, I'm not sure how well they will eat them. But there we go. So we got a big bowl of crackers. I did actually eat some for lunch. Our blueberry cake. And our graham crackers or our chocolate crackers. Let me try one that's not so crunchy and see. Yeah, not very sweet. But I'm going to finish letting these cool, and then I'm going to put them in a container so that they will stay fresh. If I make these again, I think I will add a little more sweetener to them, or maybe some melted chocolate chips in addition to the cocoa powder. Not sure. Anyway, they are good. They just, like I said, don't have a lot of sweetness. But so today we used, let's see, we used 2 cups, 1 cup, almost a cup. So we used almost 4 cups of sourdough discard, and that was way better than throwing it away or having to feed our sourdough tons of flour in order to keep it really fed. So these are just some of the options. You know, if you look on Pinterest or just do a search, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways that you can use your sourdough discard instead of just throwing it away. So definitely these crackers, of course, we made before. Definitely I'll make those again. We're going to give this a try later when my husband gets home. These I'm not sure about. Only if I make them sweeter. But we'll see. So I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me while we used up some sourdough discard today. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have ideas for, or if you have ways that you like to use your sourdough discard, pop them down in the comments so that I can see. And if you're not subscribed right now, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing. That helps me out, and it also lets you know when my next video is available for you to watch. So thanks again, and I will see you guys on the next video.